Hi guys, I'm back. This is Kayla. I am here with my tea and my mug, my Halloween mug with all my little cats. And on top of that, I have a candle like all the way up there that is like an apple spice cider candle, and it's super cool. That this will be my first ever deep dive book review on a book. And I'm super excited for you guys to be here along the journey of me explaining these books in depth, chapter by chapter, into it. I did say that I was going to read Aquatar, which eventually I will. Loves. Eventually I will. Um, I'm just not in the mood to. I'm a chaotic reader. Anyway, like I said, I've been in a dystopian science fiction kind of mood lately, so I wanted to give you guys an introduction, kind of, but not quite introduction, into the book that I'm going to be doing a deep dive today, and it is called The Rain. It is, I'm assuming the Netflix series The Rain is based on this book. Because it's like a Danish kind of science fiction dystopian thing. And my book is kind of like a Brit. Got into it because me and my significant other were trying to actually get into this book. I mean, get into the show last night. And me and him were kind of like looking at each other after like the first 20 minutes of The Rain, and we were like, this is not it. This is not it. So yes, kids making stupid choices when their parents told them not to do it kind of irks me. It kind of irks me. It does. But anyways, so I wanted to show you guys. I have a little Kindle. It is really old. I'm actually trying to get a new one actively, but I'm going to be reading on my Kindle again. So this is the book. Sorry, y'all. There's like a reflection. But this is the book. And I am super excited to share this. Also, I'm sorry if I mess up pronunciations. Um, but yeah, so this is by Virginia Bergin. Um, and so today I'm just going to be reviewing, kind of having a little deep dive into chapter 1 and chapter 2. And hopefully I could kind of convince you to read these books along with me. Maybe. Maybe? Maybe? Okay. So I'm about 80% into the book. Because I decided, I was like, oh my god, I need to do this video. So right after I finished chapter 1 and 2, I did this video. And God, girl, I've got things to talk about. So pretty much the quick summary of chapter 1 and 2 is we are introduced to the main female character, Ruby, and we're kind of dumped into a situation where we find her kind of obsessing over this guy named Casper, who has been her crush for a long time, or at least it's implied that he's been her crush for a long time. And she is at Zach's house, and they're just like partying, they're getting drunk, having underage shenanigans happening, which I don't encourage that, okay? I don't. Just because I say it doesn't mean I encourage that, guys. Doesn't mean I encourage that. Okay. And so basically Ruby kisses Jasper, and it's like mind-blowing to her. It's amazing. She's a little obsessed, which, I mean, for anybody who has a crush on somebody in high school, like, it's believable, it makes sense. And then kind of like Zach's parents kind of like they break up the party, and they are panicked they are concerned. They grab these kids, they grab these teenagers, and they're like, hey, you gotta get inside, break up the party. So that's pretty much what happens in chapter 1 and chapter 2. So the characters, sorry if I'm looking down, I have notes. Sorry. Characters that we're introduced to is obviously Zach, the dude who's hosting the party, and his parents, um, who are kind of the people who come in like, okay. And then we're introduced to Ruby, who's the main character, and we're introduced to Casper, her crush, who is also the first known victim that we know of that is touched by the rain. I would call him infected, but not quite. But he's been touched by the rain. It almost sounds like a little bit of a blessing. It's not. Trust me, y'all. Leon or Leanne, um, who is Ruby's best friend, and then there's Ronnie, who's kind of known as like the nerdy kid who talks too much, and he's always spewing like conspiracy theories that nobody's like whatever, because I'm not getting into that quite yet. Then we have Molly, who is a girl who the only action that she really has is throwing up after being, doing underage drinking. Saskia or Saskia, yeah, sorry, y'all, is kind of like the queen bee and described as like big booby bitch. She's kind of, Ruby thinks that she mesmerizes dudes. You could tell Ruby doesn't really quite have a liking for her. Even though like she's trying not to outwardly say that. Anyway, again, Ruby obsessed with Casper, who is her crush. Capital O. When I mean obsessed, I mean obsessed. There is literally in the first chapter, there's onomatopoeias where it's like boom Casper or something like that. There's like onomatopoeias with this man's name included. So she's obsessed. She's obsessed with him, and it's valid. It makes sense. And kind of like Ruby's reaction to the entire thing of like Zach's parents kind of coming in and acting weird because they never act like that towards the teenagers is literally to joke around and to laugh with her friends, which is reasonable because it makes sense, right? For like themes that I noticed in chapter 1 and 2, there's not really much going on with that, besides like high school, like naivety, and kind of like not really knowing how stuff is going on, and especially during this time of the apocalypse and stuff. I would say the writing is pretty damn good. It's beautiful pacing. There's a lot of concepts like introduced about the fact that so there's the American book, which I'm going to put up, and then there's the British book that I'm going to put up here. And pretty much I'm reading the British version, so there is a lot of British slang, kind of British dialect and British kind of culture. So it's very much explained that Ruby and her friends are kind of not really taking this seriously and laughing about it, is because in Britain, like they they're around, they're walking around the rain, they're doing things that like they don't care what's going on in the rain. Like that's their whole thing. It makes the world building makes everything kind of make sense of why they're not reacting, and also they're teens. And then kind of seeing Ruby's POC, where like POV, where she again is joking around, kind of kissing Casper, because again she was just kissing Casper in the hot tub like a chapter ago. And in chapter 2, they're still joking, they're still whatever. And then finally, Casper runs out, even though Zach's parents tell them not to, because they're like super vague. They're like, oh, it's something in the rain and blah blah blah. So Casper goes running out and comes back in and all hee hee joking, and then something happens to him. He starts showing the symptoms of the infected rain, or the virus that's in the rain. And suddenly it kind of like snaps Ruby out and like makes her be like, oh, sorry for the background noise. And then, like I said, kind of the world building and the setting. Like, really, the only thing that we kind of know about this virus is that it's in the rain, and that it can kind of, anytime it's in contact with a, a human in skin, it's almost like a bleeding. There's kind of like groaning from the human. There's like the tearing of skin, there's sores, there's burns, etc. So that's kind of the only thing that we really know that is going on. And that's because we only have come across one like person who's been touched by the rain, which also sounds like it's like some like blessing, like being touched by the rain. No, it's not. It's not a blessing, y'all. Um and then of course with typical like dystopian stories, the internet is off, the radio's off, like after the emergency like radio thing, everything's kind of like not working because whoop-de-doo, you're in an apocalypse. Okay. Sorry. We'll say the one thing that I'm like, not really believable in is the rain causing like burning thing, which could point to possibly the rain having like radioactive, maybe. I don't know. Um, but I just, the part of the injuries and the burning and the whatever. Now, a lot of my reactions to this is anxiety, but also I'm super excited because the lore better be freaking good, because I feel like this is going to be like good lore. I'm a little bit of a lore whore. Okay, if the lore is good, I'm a whore for it. Okay. Then the last thing I want to cover is kind of the connection to other dystopian stories that I'm noticing. I will say there's not really much connection besides maybe like the show The Last of Us, where people aren't really taking it seriously, but I would argue they were taking it more seriously than like the teens in the story. So I don't know. But and then one more thing, one more discussion piece that I want to have. Sorry, drinking break. Is, what do you guys think is causing the rain to cause almost like a burning injury? Like when someone gets burned and have like third-degree burn. That's kind of in my brain how I'm imagining is happening to people who are getting touched by the rain. So I want your guys' opinion on this. Um, Again, thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, and also comment your theories below. I would love to hear them. Also, no spoilers for the people who've actually read this book. No spoilers. None. Okay, none. This is a time for us to bond and have no spoilers, guys. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna be back for chapter 3 and chapter 4. Bye, guys.